Hey everyone, welcome to Jimmy's JamBox. It is the 500th episode, and it's an exciting one today. Before we start, please like and subscribe, and here is a word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
Thanks for watching. Here is today's guest.
Hello, I'm Jimmy of Jimmy's JamBox.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for having me have you here.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah, today is a special episode, huh?
It is 500.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my big speech about it at the end.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you for sitting and joining us. I really appreciate you doing this.
No problem. It's weird to have this like little switcheroo.
I know, right? Yeah, I've never been on the couch before. Y'all have always sat here and never me. So this is strange. I guess I should put my arm up here. There we go.
Yeah, it feels like a weird like masochistic thing happening.
I know, right? I'm like, oh, this is what I put everybody through.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm super excited. I'm glad to be able to share my story a little bit.
Yes, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I've been waiting to say this fun statement, which is give us your little Tinder profile edit of like who you are as a musician, what do you do, where are you from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, my name is Jimmy. I host a show called Jimmy's JamBox. I'm originally from Sunnyvale, California, or the Bay Area for people not in the know. Just a little bit near San Jose. And I moved up to Washington and Vancouver and I guess the Portland area in 2016, and I've been here ever since. But my mom's lived here since I was like 9, so technically I've been half up here my whole life.
Okay. So it's not like, wasn't completely new.
No, I wasn't like, I'm going to leave and find a place. No, I already knew all the highways. I already knew how to get around everywhere.
Okay.
And so I just, I've been kind of here my whole life and just made the move at one point.
Okay. Did something switch once you moved here? Did it feel different, like fully living here?
I guess no, because I lived outside of Washougal, and then I went into Portland a lot because I had family there as well. Okay. So like I traveled the space enough.
Gotcha.
That, like when I got here, I was like, oh, this is what side roads are.
Okay.
And like I spent a little more time in Vancouver proper than like Camas, Washougal. But like I had been around here for most of my life in a degree anyway. So I did kind of know everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, speaking of which, like what actually got you started then in music?
Oh, so I started playing bass when I was like 16, so like early in high school.
Okay.
My dad tried to get me on piano, but I just can't sit still. That was just never my vibe. Okay. And this is actually a little fun story. When I was younger, I wasn't very good at it, and so one day I was like, she just stopped showing up. My piano teacher. I was like, Dad, where'd the piano teacher go? And he was like, oh, she died.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
I thought
no.
I thought you were going to say she didn't want to like work with you anymore.
No, see, so that's the thing is from when I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe till I was like early 20s. This was the truth to me.
Wow.
And I was telling this story in front of somebody and he looked me dead in the eyes and went, what are you talking about? She didn't die. And I was like, but that's what you told me.
That's so mean.
I know. So it turns out he did just tell her to stop showing up because I was not doing a very good job.
He's like traumatized
Thanks,
you.
Dad. Yeah, I genuinely thought she had died.
It could have been like she moved.
The irony is that when I said that, I was like, Dad, I thought she died. He was like, well, she's probably dead by now. I was like, oh, no. So I guess, that's where I get my humor from.
Oh, man. What? So, okay, well, that aside then, playing bass, did you feel like you could groove a little bit more?
Yeah, so that was the first, like, it was the first instrument, like, I was like, I want to do this. I had friends who were already, like, in bands.
Okay.
So I was in a band 2 weeks before I got my bass.
Oh, my.
And then from there, I just kind of made made my way through music with it. I made all my friends through it. That's how some of my like closest people exist to me now. So like music really became my life from then there on.
Yeah, that's kind of a great way to get into music, is learning through a band. Perspective.
To a degree, they definitely were like, your chops, you don't need those, just play these notes.
I see. Okay.
And so, you know, it was a little up. It was my first band I was in had 3 guitar players because they couldn't decide who in the friend group got to play guitar.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a little hectic.
Yeah.
But it was very fun. Okay. It was very fun. I definitely good old Ironclad. That was the band name.
Ironclad.
We had like 7 practices and no shows. It was not the best, but it was a great start to getting out there. And I kind of did it. Man, I played bass for a long time after that. I still kind of to this day, but now I'm more focused on drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
On drums.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So again, movement.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got into engineering like probably 4 years after that. And that's like really where my mainstay is, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, eventually I bought all the instruments and wanted to learn how they all work. And drums are definitely like the one where I'm like, oh, this makes the most sense.
Makes the most sense. Because I bet you have to be doing so many different things.
Exactly.
At once. So it's kind of tickling that part of your brain.
Like I'm always moving. So that just kind of makes the most sense. My hands and feet can think independently.
Gotcha. I'm curious then, what was like the first album then you bought? With your money, like what music were you drawn to?
Oh man, so this has definitely been said on the show before, but I'm glad to put it finally in a spot. The first album I ever bought with my own money was The Carter One by Lil Wayne. Yeah.
How old are you?
Oh God, I don't even know. I was pretty young, not old enough to buy the album, that's for sure. But like I was with a family member and they were just like, "Oh, what are you gonna get?" And I was like, "Hey, here's this one." And like they were taking like they had to buy some things too, so they were just like, "Okay, give me your money and I'll give it to the lady." And I was like, "Perfect."
Yay.
Yeah, and I always say this on the show, but I can still do the entire first track from memory.
Really?
I'm not gonna do it now.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly show appropriate.
Okay.
But that was the first album I ever like purchased.
Okay. Did you, after purchasing that, kind of stay in that lane of music genre, or did you go off?
Yes and no. Like where I grew up, like hip hop and rap and things like that were very prominent. Okay. But I had a lot of friends who were into like electronic music, and then when I got into like high school, there was a lot more like classic rock and heavy metal and like just like core style music. So like over time I kind of jumped from genre to genre to genre. And now just it depends on what I'm feeling like. Like my shuffle playlists are always very neurotic to anybody listening.
Okay,
but I have, every playlist for every genre you could think of.
Okay, because I was going to ask, are you someone who really is like feeling based when it comes to music? Like the mood you're in is the music you're drawn to, or
not so much mood per se, but like just kind of whatever like sound I'm feeling like. So like I can be in a good mood and listen to anything. I can be in a bad mood and listen to anything. Okay. But like sometimes I'm like, I want words I want words. Sometimes I want beats. Sometimes I want movement. Sometimes I want still. So like it's kind of just whatever sound I'm feeling like more than like the mood itself, because I can find things within that genre or style.
Yeah, so like less so the message, but almost like the different modalities of music. Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
That's really interesting.
Music, there's so many songs. There's so much music out there that it's like, why limit yourself to just the like, only when I'm sad, listen to sad songs. Yeah. Only when I'm happy, listen to fast songs. Like, there's a little bit of everything and everything.
Yes. I feel like that's definitely showing that you are a musician because you're thinking about it in
very
that
much
way.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also, when I was younger, shout out to my uncle Harry, who is now passed. He made me listen to music in a very different way. He was just like, you're going to sit down and you're going to listen to this song and I'm going to tell you every single part of it. And he knew all these songs. He had all this super abstract music. So I'd be like, all right, listen for this part. All right, now you see how it's doing this next. This is going to come in and this is going to happen. And then while they're doing that, suddenly this is going to happen and they're all going to stop. And so he was like almost conducting music in front of me as it was happening. And so I learned how to like listen to music polyphonically almost. Like it just like my ability to perceive all the things that are occurring at once just grew dramatically from these experiences, because we did this every time we hung out. So like I would spend the day with my Aunt Bridget and then the evening with my Uncle Harry. And all he would do is just be like, sit down, listen.
Okay.
And I'd be like, well, all right, you're the boss.
Yeah.
And so that really expanded the way I experience music. And to this day, it's the only way I'll listen to music.
That's amazing. It's a full body experience. Do you feel like that at all makes you over analytical when it comes to music, or do you just feel like it lets you experience it more deeply? Like, is there
That's a good question. I mean, I guess it's kind of both.
Okay.
Because yes, at a certain point, like it's hard for me to like experience music with other people at the same time because I want to start, like I immediately want to be like, oh my God, look at this part. Like, what about this? And but like when it's just me and the music, I enjoy it a lot. Like it helps me listen to it more in depthly. Okay. And I feel like that allows me to take it not so much more seriously, but I can receive it more fully. And so when I get to enjoy listening to music, I get to enjoy it fully.
I love that. Well, this is actually a good segue to the next question, just about experiencing music. Is what was the first live concert that you went to?
Okay, so quick disclaimer, y'all. I've accidentally been lying because the question has always been, what was the first show you also went to, like where you wanted to go to? You got the tickets, you went. Yeah. So I always told I've always said on the show that my first show was Ozfest 2005. Okay. But that's a lie because my mom took me, like that was one I wanted to go to, but she took me down for my birthday. That was the first concert I went to. The first show I ever went to that I was like, I'm going to this, I'm making it happen, was it was the Honda Civic Tour in I think 2008. Okay. And it had the Black Keys opening.
Oh, that's so
Motion City soundtrack. Or no, I'm sorry, other order. Open with Motion City soundtrack, then the Black Keys, and then it was headlined by Panic at the Disco during their Pretty Odd album.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, so they had dropped all the theatrics and like they were just doing the music. But me and a friend from a different school bought tickets and skipped school to drive up to San Francisco to go see this show. Oh my! And it was like in the middle of the day on like a Thursday. It was a super weird show. Yeah. But we were able to get back in time and, nobody was the wiser. We just...
Oh, okay. So it was like a secret.
Yeah.
Oh, so there was like a whole story behind it.
I left school that day. Like I was like, I got to school. 10 minutes later, my friend picked me up and we drove straight up to San Francisco, watched the whole show and came back home after.
How old were you? Grade, roughly.
I mean, I had to be like, I think I was like 17.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I just like, and I got to meet Motion City soundtrack. If I remember, I'll put the picture right here. And like it was like a whole moment for me because they were I mean to this day they're still in my top, but they were definitely like one of my favorite bands.
Was seeing them all live, like did it live up to what you were hoping?
Okay. That and more.
Really? Okay.
And same with Panic at the Disco because like I like I said, it was during their Pretty Odd album, so it was like they had moved away from the like more like the emo pop stuff and they moved more into like the folky sound. Okay. And they were incredible. I did not realize like the range that their voices all had or that everybody performed or like how good Brendan was on the keys. Like there was just so much involved in the performance, and the venue was really intimate. Like it was not a concert venue. It was like where I was standing, I could have like tossed something and hit them.
Oh my God.
So like it was just, and every seat, like every spot in there was standing room, and it was all like you could see everything from anywhere.
That's a pretty amazing first concert.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. And like I said, I didn't know the venue. I didn't know what it was gonna be like. Like we were just like, ooh, we're gonna go. And so yeah, like to be there and be like, oh my God, here are like all these people that I care about all in this one room. And I mean, like the Black Keys were cool. I just didn't really know who they were at the time. Now I know.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I wish I had known better because I definitely like left half of their set to go meet Motion City soundtrack. But like, if given the same option, I would have done it again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. One thing is see like your favorite artists in person too, and you don't realize that they can sometimes play other instruments really well and sing really well. And because what's on the actual like recorded music is kind of the very solidified version, but
very much
live they get to do more fun stuff.
Yeah, and I will say Motion City soundtrack definitely. I mean, they sound incredible recorded, but they sound amazing live. Like they brought it 110%.
Oh, that's so cool.
So shout out Motion City soundtrack. Yeah.
Well, okay, so you clearly love music. It's very much so a part of you for a while. So what made you switch from music to doing the show?
Right before COVID happened, I was in a band called Smooth Talk.
Smooth talk.
Yeah, and it was great. We were awesome. We were electronic funk rock.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, and it was going really well. We were playing big shows. We were doing big things. We were moving right along. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, the band separated.
Dreaded COVID.
I know. And so after COVID, I had moved to Vancouver because I was in Oregon for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I kept trying to do the band thing. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't working. Like COVID was definitely, or not COVID, I'm sorry. Smooth Talk was definitely my magnum opus.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I was just kind of chasing that dragon of like, what is music? What can I be doing? Mm-hmm. And so as when I went to go to California to visit a friend of mine and to be in their wedding, you know, shout out Victor and Mo, I was hanging out with them and they were like, Jimmy, you should make a podcast. Or no, I'm sorry. It was Dan and Jen's wedding. Shout out Dan and Jen.
He has lots of friends.
And I was visiting Victor and Mo because they were getting, you know, before they got married.
Yeah.
And they were like, Jimmy, you should make a podcast. And I was like, what would I talk about? Like, you know, and they're like, talk about anything. And I was like, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. And so when I got back, I was driving to work one day and I was listening to this like random jazz album. Mm. And I was just like, man, I wish I could just talk about this. Mm. And then there you go. 1,000 lights went off. And so as soon as I got to work, I like started working, obviously. And then I went on my lunch breaks and my breaks in between. I was just like, how can I have music on a podcast?
Yeah.
And I figured out you could do it through a program called Anchor, which is owned by Spotify, which is now Spotify for podcasters.
Okay.
And so I went home. I grabbed my mic, grabbed an interface, grabbed my computer, sat down in my living room, and I did it.
Wow. And was it you just talking about music yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you weren't interviewing anyone.
No. So I, for the first, definitely for the first 100 episodes, well, I guess 99 episodes, it was just me. And I would pick out 14 songs a day and I would talk about them.
God.
Yeah. And I started technically at 5 days a week, like just hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. And then for the 100th episode, I had my keyboard player, Max, shout out Max, on the show. And that went well. Mm-hmm. It was a very long episode. It is not up anymore. But it was the first time I had a guest on. Okay. And then I had my friends on a couple more times after that, and I realized nobody gives a shit about me and my friends. That's just what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. It was not engaging content. I see. As the people would call. So in February of 2023, I asked a friend of mine who plays music to come on the show. And let me ask them questions. And then in February, I did like 4 interviews. In March, I did like 9. And then from April onwards, it was 20 plus. Yeah.
That's a really great example of not being so attached to how you have to accomplish something. Mm-hmm. You just like knew you wanted to make a podcast about music and you let it happen naturally. And now here you are.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Like you kind of surrendered to the process, it seems like.
Very much.
Yeah.
Also, I got to tell you, the me only part, it was so tedious because I was so particular about being like, all right, like my parts have to be like trimmed down. They have to be dialed because they're going to be short and in between songs. Yeah. And so I ended up spending so much time on them. And then when I started doing the interviews, I wanted to keep that momentum the same. So like now not only was it me doing like 2-3 minutes of me talking in spurts, it was, 45-minute or hour-long conversations. And so I was going to bed at like 3 a.m. during the weekdays. Oh, goodness. Just like trying to make sure that it was good. Like I wanted to be dialed. And then when the introduction of video came along in June of last year, which conveniently happened right around my 1-year mark. I didn't plan that, but it worked.
Of course.
I switched over to video. I started doing the live performances in the beginning, which you've done one of. Thank you. And I dropped the radio format in exchange for full-time interview segments. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. People like to be able to visualize.
I hate to, I don't want to use numbers per se, but I got to tell you, I have 4 times as many subscribers on YouTube as I do on Spotify, and the Spotify's been around twice as long. Yeah. So there's definitely a viewing element, as well as I think just the conversation is kind of where I like thrive in anyways. I'd much rather be talking to people about their music than like telling people about random music. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. It's a good outreach too for this part of the country, the city you're in, to be giving local artists a chance to talk. Yeah, because so many people are talking about already music that's already really big and theory and so forth and so on. So this is pretty unique in that it's giving this platform to people in Portland. And
very much so.
Yeah.
And I think this area in particular is such a good spot for it because, I mean, the DIY scene in general is incredible. Like, it reaches so far and so many people can do so much with so little.
Yeah.
And, like, everybody, when they're working together, are so inclusive in, like, the experience itself and creating so many opportunities that you can thrive in any genre here.
Yeah.
You can make a space for yourself as long as you take the time to, like, carve it out. And, like, you know, especially, like, networking here is a lot easier. Like, you can meet 10 people and those 10 people are going to introduce you to 5 more people each. Yeah. So suddenly that 10 becomes 50, which becomes, you know, 150, which becomes 250 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. That's what I love about the Portland scene is it's very artistic. It's about the process a little bit more.
Very much.
Feels a little more family oriented and like communal. Yeah. And so like you're a part of that web, which is really cool. Like that strand in the web.
Yeah.
Yeah. Each role.
I definitely consider myself more like the hermit though, that kind of lives up a mountain. Like you got to travel, you got to travel to get here. But once you get here, you've been a part of this. And that's like, I really enjoy it. Cause I you know, I work regular hours like a regular person and I do this full time, but I've gotten to meet so many interesting people through the music scene, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Speaking of all of this too, you've kind of already answered it, but how did you name the podcast? Like, I mean, you, it seems like you kind of told us, but.
Yeah, well, no, so I'm a big fan of alliteration.
Okay.
And that's, you know, so Jimmy's JamBox.
Yes.
A friend of mine used to call me Jimmy JamBox.
Oh.
And I thought he had taken it from a TV show.
Oh.
So I wasn't going to use it. But then I decided to jump on old Google's. Now I know the name of the show. And so I knew, so I looked for it. I looked for it forever. It is not a part of that show. And so I was just like, oh.
Yay.
Yeah. So shout out to Anthony Stefani of Endless Afternoon. Y'all should go listen to him. He called me that forever. And so I just named it Jimmy's JamBox.
I love that. And moment with the viewers, I unironically wore a Jimi Hendrix shirt, not even remembering it's like
that is
your name.
He does spell it differently, but yes.
And there's a poster right
there is. You can't see it in camera, but yes, there is a Jimi Hendrix poster that lives full time above the guest.
Do you like Jimi Hendrix? Like, it's not just because of the name?
Okay. Big fan. Yeah, no, his music is phenomenal. I mean, definitely gone too soon, but he was just so abstract for his time. He had just this emotion in his music that just I didn't comprehend it right when I was younger, even when I first got introduced to him. But Castles Made of Sand is one of my favorites of all time.
Oh my God.
Because just the way it like dissolves and like expands, like the song breathes in such an abstract way. And that was literally one of my first times like experiencing music that was not like designed to be this like specific format, even though it still stayed in that way. Like the way he would just completely let it go and then bring it back and then bring it back more. It blew my mind.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even about like discarding a full structure. It's just really making it wobble a little bit. It's like perfect. Yeah, that's why I love him. Well, okay, so we've kind of figured out, you know, love music. You like to talk about music.
Yes.
What's the process like when it comes to this like show? Like, how do you pick your guests? How much research goes into it? What's the time like?
Oh man. So as far as getting people on the show, it's pretty simple. I just message people on Instagram. It's really, that's it. I scroll through it. I try to like follow pages of pages. I try to like click on the recommended to use. I'll search like keywords that are in the area and just I try to reach out to everybody. Like it may seem like I have more of a style at the moment as far as like recurring experiences, but I reach out to everybody all the time. And by the time this comes out, a few more interesting ones will have come out. But like, I mean, I don't care if you're in a band. I don't care if you're like a solo artist. I don't care if you have like I would like to get back to where I'm like interviewing like people in music outside of performing it. So like, you know, like videographers, DJs, venue owners, things like that. But for the most part, I just reach out to everybody I can. Because I mean, you know, filling 5 days a week is no tall order. But it's like I'm not picky because, like I said, I love all music. So any kind of style or genre, or anything that attaches you to music is kind of my deciding factor. And then as far as like what I'll do beforehand, not a ton. Not a ton. I really like to get to know the guests in real time. So
Okay.
like when people are watching me, talking to them and getting to know them, they are getting to know them in the same rate I am.
Okay.
But I do spend a fair amount of time listening to their music the day of.
Okay, so you do listen to the music.
Yes, very much so. Every time somebody's been on the show, I guarantee they have like a minimum of one listen on nearly every song they have.
That's why my views and stuff. That's why all my stats went up.
Yeah, no, I like
one day.
Like I will literally, if they're like somebody who has all singles, I will just add to queue every single single and just hit play.
Okay.
And just let it run through and listen to like the evolution of their sound. If they have like EPs or albums, if they have like 20 albums, I'm going to go for like the most recent 3. But like I try to listen to as much of it as possible because I want to see what their progression was like. What were some of the things they like tried to do differently? What were some of the directions they were going? And just really just kind of take the time to like understand their music.
Do you feel like usually the people, once they come in, or the guests, do they reflect the music, or have you found that like the music's really different?
Oh no, I actually really early on stopped trying to have any preconceived notions because like when you talk to people online, you know, when you're just messaging them, you have no tones, no understanding, like you can't even feel their energy. Like, and I've had so many people on the show where it's like they'll send like 3-word messages and then you get in the room and they can't stop talking. And vice versa. You get somebody who sends a ton of messages and when you get them in, you're like, oh, answer this question. They're like, yep. And you're like, oh.
You're like,
right.
okay.
So yeah. So like literally I have no presumptions about how people are or aren't before they come into the room. I've, you know, in the very beginning I thought I did, but that dissolved so quickly. And so now it's just like I sit down and I just bring the same energy to every single person when they come in the room and just let them kind of narrate the movements from there.
Was that like any learning curve for you when you started interviewing people to figure out how to keep the flow going? Or did you feel like you kind of had the confidence from off the bat? Like,
I've always been good at talking. That is
Jimmy's JamBox.
Yeah. No, I've always, I mean, and this goes like another, young Jimmy story. My dad said he used to leave me in the bathtub and go do the dishes because I would just be going continuously. Anytime he heard me stop talking, he would be like, "You doing all right?" And I would just kick right back up. But I would I've always enjoyed conversations with people. I've always enjoyed hearing stories and like asking questions. I've always been a really curious kid. And so this kind of actually just made sense once I started doing it. Like I wish somebody in high school had told me to start journalism because I probably would have been much further on, but they didn't. So I'm here now. But this is just kind of what I'm good at, and it lets me be what I'm good at in the space where I'm most passionate about.
Yeah, and who knows? You may have never. This might take you down a whole nother path.
Yeah, who knows? I might have been a newscaster. Yuck. No, I'm just kidding. Any newscast show, please have me on.
We respect you.
Yes. What you do is important.
But for you specifically, this seems to really draw in on a lot of your life experience.
Very much.
Great way. Yeah.
Very much so. And it just, I'm one of those people who my battery recharges when I talk to people.
Okay.
I have to have human interaction.
So are you an extrovert, would you say?
Very much so. Very much so. Like, I know it seems like I'm always inside all the time, but that's because I'm doing this all the time. But yes, I need human interaction just to kind of thrive.
I see.
And so this is a really good way for me to be able to do that kind of, consistently, but in a controlled source with intent.
Yeah, I love that word, with intent. Yeah. It's like you've made your lifestyle. Because I was going to ask, how do you keep up such a crazy schedule with this all? But it seems like you've found a way to make this fit, fill a lot of your cups.
Yes.
And a lot of your needs.
And, I to everybody at home, please don't do 5 days a week. That is the one thing I have learned is that is a lot. It is a very tall order. But yes, for me, I have to be doing stuff with my hands. I always have to be busy. And so this really does fill that for me. It gives me kind of an opportunity to be creating, especially because as a musician, I'm not the most talented. I'm not bad, but I've always been surrounded by people that are infinitely better than me. So the creation of full songs was never my job. So when it's just me by myself, the writing of an entire song doesn't come to me. So I can't make whole music by myself. And so this is a good outlet for me to be able to be creating something. Yeah. And I get to, it's routine based to a degree, but it's still it's different every time, and it lets me kind of lean into my strengths. But at the same time, it lets me interact with people.
Yeah, it's kind of proof that like being an artist even doesn't have to look like one thing.
Very much
Like
so.
this is your creative process.
Yes.
And it's maybe not making like a full song, but it's technical pieces and getting people involved and editing videos.
Yes.
Like that's all super creative to finish like a product, basically. Something to give people.
I actually hate the video editing side of things. Video editors, please hit me up. Audio editing is my bag though. I'm really proud of my signal chain. I'm really proud of like the speed I can do it at and like how consistent it tends to be. But yes, as far as like the actual creation side of things, and actually on a recent episode with an artist named Dopamine, shout out Dopamine, he kind of actually brought that to the forefront for me. He was like, what does an artist mean to you? Like, what does being an artist mean to you is what he asked me off camera. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, that I've never really, I've asked like, what's important to being a musician, but I've never really considered what, like defining the word artist. And so that actually, it conveniently in the real lifetime happened just very near to this interview. So like, that's actually like really fresh in my brain.
Yeah.
And so I consider this, well, I've always said this isn't music, this is journalism. Looking back on it, it very much is my art.
And I think if more people like had that understanding of art, that it doesn't have to look a certain way, more people would follow their creative impulses.
Yes.
And I think we'd have a lot more happy people in the world.
Very much so. Or at least more abstract music.
Or at least
or
more
just
abstract
art in
music.
general.
Yeah. Is the technical part of this then an aspect you like? So you like the signal chain with the audio? Like what's the gear you use? Like what's the technical kind of aspect of the thing?
So so like I said, as far as like the audio editing goes, that's my favorite. And I use Ableton to edit my audio. I use DaVinci Resolve to edit the video. The microphones are Universal Audio. Sponsor me. Universal Audio SD1s. The cameras I use are the Sony ZV-1s. And then all the other stuff is just kind of, like I use a Zoom F6 to record all the audio and a Blackmagic Design ATM ISO Pro Mini. It's a lot of things. I don't know if I said it in the right order, but that's what I use to actually record through onto a single hard drive. So that way I don't have to do the whole, like, we lined up the video, guys. Like, but it's all very simple. Like for those of you who haven't been in the room, for you in the room, it's my goal was to make it very streamlined. Like I don't want to have to do 1,000 settings. I don't have to do a million things. For me, it's like I turn on, a couple things every day and it's good to go in minutes. Yeah.
This is where like having structure as a creator is important. Like having the setup you need so you can work at this every day and not making it so impossible that you can't. Yeah. Seems like you've, streamlined that process pretty well.
To do this as many times, because I do, 4 to 9 interviews a week, you need that somewhere. You need that somewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, you clearly have such a passion or you wouldn't be doing this. Where do you want to see this go? Like, do you have a vision?
Oh, man. So I have 2 like end goals in mind. Okay. And obviously this can't be both of them at the same time, or it may become 2 things in the future. But if I end up staying stationary, I want a big enough space that I can have music performed in every episode. Wow. So like, I want to, I really like, because I didn't grow up with interviews. I didn't grow up with podcasts. I didn't grow up on YouTube. Like I grew up watching late night. So like for me, like the house band was a thing. Like the performances by the guests were part of the show. And so like I would like to get to a point where I can be like, all right, let's take a quick break and have you perform your new single. And then I would like for them to actually like be able to get up and go over to like their setup space, cut from camera A to camera B, and like do a full performance and come back. Or, if it's like a heavy experienced band, we'll cut to that real quick and then come back so that they don't have to burn their energy out mid-interview. But like, I would love to have a space where like, even if the guest is somebody who doesn't perform, there can be a live band there. Like it can be a thing, I want to like be able to cut to commercial breaks and like have it be like played off by like a house band even.
Oh, fun.
But that's the first idea.
Okay.
The second idea is I would like to, if I don't stay stationary, I would like to travel for the show, but I would like to get like an Airbnb in a different city every week, or at least 1 week a month, and do 20 interviews.
Oh, yeah.
And then come back and spend a couple weeks editing and get it prepped, take a week off, and then start releasing those at the beginning of the month while I fly out to another place.
Oh, I love that.
And just live in Airbnb to Airbnb 1 week of every month and like go to every major city and talk to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's the travel dream right there.
Yeah.
Have you traveled much? Like, is that something?
I've flown a lot in my life. Like when because when I was younger, I was California to here a lot, and I've been to New York, I've been to Florida, I've driven through the country once, or I've rode through the country. I didn't drive. Okay. But like, I haven't traveled a lot for the show. I've been to Seattle twice now. Shout out to everybody in Seattle. And I would like to get down to like Eugene sometime this year in the Bay Area if I can.
Okay.
But it's a little harder for me at the moment because there's the logistics of life. Yeah, there's so much stuff in it.
Yeah. So that would really open up your world if you could.
Very much so. That and just there's so much music. There's so much music that, like, don't get me wrong, I love this area. Like, I'll probably be here until at least episode 1,000. And I'll probably live here
You get 500 more.
Yeah. But I'll probably end up, like, keeping this my home base.
Yeah.
Like, I really like the area. But I would love to hear the stories of other places. Like, music is so different in so many parts of the country.
Yes, America is such a melting pot.
Yeah. And so, like, and a week isn't a long time. Like, that's still 3/4 of the month I'd be back home. And like, if I'm editing all the time, I can still be working on other things. Like, I eventually would like to move this into a career path that, aside from my show, I am doing regularly. I'd like to produce another podcast at some point. Like, I have the space if y'all want to, if you want a podcast. I'd love to be able to like make some for other people and use like what I've learned to help give people an opportunity. I know a lot now. I've learned a lot. I've put a lot, I've chipped away at the 10,000 hours pretty aggressively in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So like that's like, I would just like to be more involved in the community of people that want to do stuff like this because I like to share. I like, I just listed my whole list of gear. Like, I don't like to gatekeep my stuff. I like to share the knowledge and help people grow.
That's, again, like the strength of community and like where I think you will probably find your success is people want to have that give and take and be able to work together. And that's what really music and art should be about. It shouldn't be about how famous can I get?
Very much so.
But can I tell stories? It's storytelling.
Yeah.
Storyteller.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to call it, maybe not call it, but I'm more of a story receiver?
Receiver, you let people tell their story.
Extract stories.
Yeah, you extract story extractor.
Yes, there we go.
Jimmy, guys, story extractor.
That's a pretty good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of coming near the end, and I have a couple questions for you. Okay. Hope it's okay if I bring up my phone.
Yeah, please do.
So yeah, these are some Camille coded questions.
Nice.
My first one was, what about this project that you've been doing and this path has been healing for you?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
So like I said, for me, it definitely recharges me. Like, especially post-COVID, like human interaction is so strange. People have definitely changed the way that they exist with people.
Yeah.
So I kind of found myself a little lost after that point because I just didn't know how to exist in a world of people in a space where people didn't want to exist in the world in the same way.
Yeah.
So the show it gives back to me a lot of space, a lot of room for creativity, a lot of growth, and meeting new people is one of my favorite things. Like, I was definitely a kid who got in trouble for talking to strangers, you know what I mean? But it's very rewarding to be able to hear all these stories and share all these moments. And that moment where I'll ask something about something and they're like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about this. That's just, I'm like, oh,
you love that moment.
Please tell me about it. Yeah. I get so excited to hear people's stories, regardless of where they come from or what they do. And to be able to find out at the same time as people watching. That's really special for me as well, because it makes me feel like anybody that gets to experience the interview gets to experience what I'm feeling.
I love that. It's such an ode to the human experience, because so many people spend so much time focused on themselves and their perspective, and you miss out on learning more about what it means to be a human, which is unique to every single person. So I can only imagine that's very healing and very, very rewarding to come at it from that perspective.
Very much so. Yeah. And I like giving people a space to tell their story in a way that isn't challenged. So much of today is clickbaits and gotchas and all right, what is your beef with this, or what don't you like about that? I really, and I mean, this is part of like my speech I give everybody before they're on the show. Like I always say, I don't ask any charged questions. I'm not here to find out who you don't like or what you don't like about the community. I don't care. Like for me, it's really, it's about giving you an opportunity to share your experience in a way that is supportive of sharing the experience so that anybody listening walks away getting to know the better parts of you better.
Yeah.
To know more of the intent behind why you do the thing you're most passionate about.
That's how I felt when I left this interview with you the first time, because it just like was this nice hour of solidifying my path to where I am now. And I'd never been asked so succinctly in that way who I was as a musician. And it was like, wow, this really, like I left feeling more close to that identity with myself.
Oh.
So.
Well, that's really rewarding to hear.
So yeah, thank you. I guess the next thing I would ask is like, if you could go back 5 years from now, what advice would you give yourself about even life and this? And just like, what would you tell yourself?
Well, 5 years ago was a very different Jimmy.
Okay.
So I don't know what I would tell myself different there other than like, hey, don't do some things. Or hey, choose these things.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I would tell me to get into journalism.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
Like if
you could give yourself a compassionate piece of advice that would work for you.
I guess it would be, oh man, that's tough because I've really have learned so much in this time that like, I don't think I could have told myself then or else I wouldn't have gotten to this point where I am now. Okay. Like I almost don't want to adjust my story, the good or the bad.
Yeah.
So I guess, just be understanding, be trusting of yourself and your decisions because ultimately that's what's going to lead to what is now.
Yeah.
And I mean, like life definitely happened for me a lot in a lot of ways in the last 5 years specifically. So especially even like the last 2-ish years, like kind of what led to the start of this was kind of getting me out of a space that I was in. So really like as much as I would love to be like, hey, get away from this or don't do that or don't hang out with these people or like make your decisions wisely on this and that. Like this is probably one of the most beautiful times of my life and such a rewarding experience the way that it is. So I don't know that I would actually give myself any other advice.
Amazing. That I love that because it's just kind of, again, this example that there really aren't any mistakes. There's just lessons and there's just growth.
Very much.
And you cannot be who you are now without what you went through. And that's such a like compassionate stance to have on your past self instead of like, we all shame our past selves a lot. Like, why did you do this and that? It's like you did the best you could with the consciousness level you had.
Very much so.
And so it seems like you've had a big shift in your consciousness level and the way you view life in the past 5 years.
Thanks to this. Yeah. Like I said, I would really slim it down to like the past like 2.5 years.
Wow.
Like that is really where like this all started, when I moved up to Vancouver, when I like started figuring out this path, like, and again, it always kind of circles back to the show. Like this has really been such a rewarding part of my life, like being able to do this in the capacity that I do and create the space that I get to create. It gives me so much that like there's a lot of things I would give up for it. Like I don't do a lot outside of this because I do this all the time because I want it to matter. I want it to mean something. And I want to make sure that when people come on the show and afterwards when their episode comes out, that they feel a level of care was put into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I said, I felt that.
Thank you.
That's so cool. Okay. My last question then, you kind of answered it, so we can go as far as you want with it. But what fears have you had to overcome to be the person you are today doing this project? I know that's a huge question, but is there something that stands out to you?
Damn, that's a hard-hitting question.
You asked me to join.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a quick sip of my
I'm going to take a sip too.
Delicious Brothers Apothecary tea. I guess, yeah. So I kind of answered this, but it was the backwards version. So I guess my biggest fear is that people aren't going to like their episodes. Like as weirdly as it sounds, because like I said, to me, it's my show, but it's their moment. Like for me, I try to look at it as like I'm creating the opportunity for somebody else to come and be vulnerable, to come and share their experience. And the experience is so important. Like their story is so important And so I want to make sure that it's communicated correctly.
Yeah.
So every time I like edit an episode, I'm just like, I have to make sure it sounds good so that there people will want to listen to it. I have to make sure that it looks fine so that people will want to watch it. I want to make sure that they got their whole answers out so that they can feel proud of the answer that they gave, so that they didn't leave anything off the table to like let it be shared. So I guess that is a tough one, like, because like, you know, I want to like answer the question a little broader than just that. Like, I guess the fear for me is that I think really it's that people won't like their episode.
Okay.
Like I want to give as much to the community as I get from this, but it's so singular and internal on what I get from it. So figuring out a way to translate that is difficult, because I can only do so much, and after it's recorded, after the interview happens, it's not like I can be like, hey, come back. So it's doing a good job.
Yeah. What's nice about the format, though, like you said, you reach out to so many people, you're kind of providing this service to people for free, and they get to come and talk about themselves. So it seems like hopefully there's a lot of gratitude, I would hope, involved.
I mean, I don't,
maybe.
I guess I don't really ask, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, hey, what did you think of your stuff? Or like, hey, can you make sure to do this or that with it? Or like, oh, like, why aren't you like, what, you know, I don't, for me, it's like, I do the best I can. Like, I always know that I'm doing the best I can, but I don't get a ton of feedback. And that's fine. Like, you know, people are living their own lives. Like, this is a moment in time. It's not something that is going to roll over and over and over forever. So like, I guess like, that's why I'm like, I don't think this is exactly the answer to the question, but it's like, I do care that people think that it was a good interview, because I want them to be able to share their experience, not so that like people are like, oh, Jimmy did great. I want it to be like, man, because Jimmy asked these questions, we got great answers from the people that we want to watch the episodes for. So like, really, it's for their audience as much as it is for them.
Well, I feel like your reasoning kind of solves the problem, because it seems like you're very aware of the types of questions you want to ask, and there's thought put behind this. So
I try to.
Yeah. So that will leave feeling good.
Yes. Yeah. I guess the bigger part of it is just, I would like to see this go somewhere. Like, I think my biggest, okay, here we go. I think I got it. My biggest fear is that in, 5-10 years, whenever this won't end. Like I always tell people, I don't plan to retire off of this. I plan to die doing it. Like my biggest fear, I guess, would just be that it won't matter more one day. I want to make this a spot that people aspire to get to, because it gives them that platform. Like I always try to, like, I don't compare myself to Joe Rogan. Like I don't want to make Spotify money. I always compare this to Sway in the Morning, or I guess Sway's Universe, for those, who watch it now. Because like that is like that's a feather in the cap. That's like you play your first big show at your local space, you go on your first coastal tour, you like get on this, you get on that, you go on Jimmy's JamBox. Like I want this to be like, kind of like KEXP or Tiny Desk, or like, something to that degree, not so much to be like the achievements that they have, because they are very much their own thing. But I want this to be something people are excited to do, and like create a space where it becomes, I guess, an achievement. And so my fear is that people won't love it in 10 years.
Well, it seems interesting, though, because it feels already like you've achieved a lot because you're aiming so high. You have this insane schedule.
Yes,
you reach out to a lot of people. You've had a lot of feedback. And so it seems like it's trucking along.
For whenever somebody's like, oh, you're going to make it, it's going to be like this, you're on your way, I can see it. I always rebuttal with, I'm actually exactly where I need to be right now.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like every day that I do an interview is another day that I've done an interview.
There you go.
And that's the biggest part for me. Like, I have a 5-year plan. I have a 10-year plan. And, obviously the further out you get, the looser it becomes structured. But my end goals exist.
Yeah.
And so it's just filling in the blanks of how do I get to a step that becomes that next step.
Yeah.
So even though I can't see each rock in front of me to jump from to, I know that what I'm doing right now is exactly what I need to be doing, because I can't be doing any more.
Yeah. You're following your excitement.
Yes.
And that's just taking you where you need to go. And that's present to be like, I've achieved everything I need to achieve because all that exists is right now.
Yes.
That's what's happening right now. Yeah. Not being attached to an outcome is super freeing.
It is.
And it seems to usually get you closer to not where you have to go, but where your soul's going to take you.
Yeah. Like,
I've
recently noticed, and I never get to share this with anybody, so this is there's like official exclusive. I spend every day waiting to do an interview. So like I said, I do 4 to 9 of these a week. So 4 of those days are usually weekdays. So every weekday, every work day, I am excited about the second half of the day. I'm not waiting for work to be over so I can go to sleep, so I can get through the next day that's coming up so that I can get one day closer to the weekend. I am just waiting for work to be over so I can go home and do my life's work.
Yeah.
I get to sit down and like experience people and things and do stuff.
Yeah.
And that is just so rewarding in its own way.
Yeah. That's the dream for so many people. It's just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I guess, I don't attach the monetary value to it though. So I don't go home and go, well, I wish I had been making money. Like the process is the reward. So like for me, it's like at the end of each day, my cup is full again.
Wow.
And so I run out of energy in the beginning of the day. I go home and I get to recharge.
Oh, that's like, there's this motto called "You are your own medicine." And it's just this idea that like seeking externally for things to make you happy is pointless because you already know what you need. And if you just go internal and you figure that out and you live it, you'll be happy. And it seems like you are embodying that in many ways.
I guess so. I didn't even know.
You are your own mediciner.
Hooray. Yes. I'm my own happiness extractor.
You're you're a story extractor. And what was the other thing you just said?
Happiness extractor.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love that.
There we go.
Well, I'm going to kind of wrap this up. I have a couple last questions here. And dead or alive, what guests would you like to have on the show?
Ooh, okay. So I would love to have Childish Gambino.
I literally yesterday was listening to Childish Gambino for the first time in forever, and I was like, love.
Yeah. Childish Gambino, please. Be on the show. Please, everybody at him in the comments.
Yes.
Let's make it happen. No, that is like that. And you can go back to like the early audio episodes with like Max on the show when we were doing the Monday ones together. That has been a bit for a long time. Like I think just as a mind, he is such an interesting individual. And like, there's a million people I could interview, like in the world of music, especially, but like his just approach to life is so different. I would love to hear the answers to the questions. Like I would ask the same questions and I just know his answers would be just so like succinctly different. They would just have such a different experience attached to them. And yeah, I just think he has a beautiful mind, and I would love to hear anything he would like to say.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember you had, I think you texted me like a month or two ago and you interviewed kind of a cool person.
Oh yeah. In hell.
Yeah. Was that cool to, have that kind of experience with someone like that?
It was my only gripe with the situation is it was too short. They only gave me like 12 minutes.
Sorry.
And so like I had to like really condense it down, but I mean, he's my first out of country artist I've ever met. He's from Canada. And he's from Thunder Bay. Shout out Thunder Bay. And he's the first artist I've ever interviewed that was like coming from out of the area, only going to be here for the tiniest of moments. And so like it had to happen or it wasn't going to happen kind of thing. Like when I went to go do the interviews in Seattle, like I traveled to those, but this guy was only going to be here for the stretch of time. Like we did the interview in the green room. So like that was like a really special moment.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so fun. I watched it and it was great.
He had such good answers.
Yeah.
And like he kept getting so animated each time. I was like, I wish I could ask you.
I know. You're like we could have gone down the rabbit hole.
Full interview.
Yes.
It would have been so much fun. Like I could tell that his answers, like if I could have gotten him in the room for like a full experience, it would have been such a phenomenal interview.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Nice little taster.
Very much so. Coleman, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again for sure.
If you could have any local artist that you haven't had, or any person in the community, who would you like to have?
So I'm going to get the one everybody keeps messaging me about out of the way. Obviously, I would love to interview Win. Like, he's doing so much for the community. Every time I'm like, hey guys, who would you want to see on the show? I get like 30 people that are like, oh, interview Win. I'm like, she doesn't answer her DMs. But I would really like to interview Aesop Rock.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's less known that he's here. And like, he kind of wants it that way. Like he doesn't, I mean, like it's a known fact. Not a lot of people realize it because he is not outside a lot. He's not like, hey, I'm Aesop Rock. But I love his music and I love his voice.
Yeah.
And I just think that while Childish Gambino would have really like stellar, expansive answers, I feel like Aesop Rock would have really like challenging answers.
Yeah.
That would just like I'd be like, a
little sizzle. Right?
Yeah. Like they're just like, not even so much like challenging in a difficult way, but like the question would be challenged with the answer. Oh. And I think that would be really exciting.
Oh, yeah. You'd be forced to kind of maneuver the interview differently. Yeah.
And I mean, I guess, I'll throw one more in there just because they are here. I would love to get Portugal the Man on the show. Oh
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. I was also, we're on the same wavelength. I was like literally listening to Childish Gambino, Portugal the Man yesterday.
Oh, perfect.
That would be cool. That'd be cool. Maybe it's a sign.
Yes.
Come on, guys.
Please add them in the comments too. Let's make that happen.
And lastly, if you could recommend an album.
Ooh.
Buddy, what would it be?
It's Brother. By Young and Sick. And it is such a beautiful album.
Okay.
Just vocally, structurally, musically, it just invokes this emotion that just, I remember the first time I heard it, I listened to it 3 times consecutively, cover to cover, like in different form. Like I remember I was walking to get food and it just like, it was a random track I picked. And when I like heard it, I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
I listened to it cover to cover in my headphones all the way there and back, like just the whole way through. I got home, I put it on big speakers all the way through. And then like when I was winding down for my day, I put it on my little Bluetooth speaker and put it on in the room and was like, all right, I'll go to sleep to this. I did not go to sleep to it. I just re-listened to it all the way through. It's just such a phenomenal experience. And I can't even remember what track it is because I always listen to it cover to cover, but there's this one track where there's this moment where the singer's voice just breaks. Like it's just this crazy falsetto and he's just pushing it. And then it just pushes to the point where it just gives up. And it's just such a powerful moment to have captured in a recording. And then right after that happens, and as it happens, I guess everything drops out. And then these strings just slide back up and the whole music comes back without any vocals. And it is just amazing. It's such a good album.
Okay, well, I'm going to go listen to this.
Yeah, please
afterwards.
Do. Please do.
You say it one more time, the name?
Brother by Young and Sick.
Okay. Well, we're almost done now. So I want to know, what can we look forward to in the future? Anything coming up?
Man, I wish I had more like specifically exciting things. Like I said, I'm trying to travel. If y'all want to recommend some Eugene bands, I'd like to get down there soon. I'd like to get music back on the show. It's a little bit tougher because it's just me. I'm the one doing all the editing. I'm the one doing all the outreach. I'm the one doing all the stuff. So, if y'all want to come help, I would definitely love the hands. But like, I'm trying to get to the point where I can introduce some new segments. By the time this comes out, we'll have had a new sponsor. Shout out Ronald Records. And the Wednesday episodes are now going to be there.
Okay.
So every Wednesday, which I guess this has happened. So sorry that wasn't in the beginning. We're going to Photoshop in some of that at the beginning of this episode, which I guess you would have seen it that way by now. So really breaking the fourth wall on this one. But I'm going to start doing interviews at the shop there.
Okay.
So that that's kind of a different spot, and like they can pick out some artists and like showcase more of the Vancouver talent and like kind of get a different, let it be a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
I would really like to get back to doing the showcases at some point. I thought that was my favorite. That was so much fun being able to have like bands performing in a space that was for performances with like a real audience, real energy. Yeah. I mean, the lives I would like to come back as well. Like, thank you for being the only person I've done one with as a solo person.
So fun.
But I would really like to bring back the showcases for sure, because that's just music in its element. Like, having an audience makes you perform so much differently.
It does.
Yeah. So that is the goal, is to bring that back by the end of the year, or at least in some capacity.
Well, there's exciting things to look forward to. And I mean, you're working so hard on this, and I have no doubt this is all going to, in some way, come to fruition, or at least just take you somewhere.
Yes, very much.
Oh, that's super exciting. Okay, how about you look in the camera? Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah.
Where can we contact you? What's up with that?
So you can find me on Instagram at Jimmy's JamBox. You can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/@Jimmy's JamBox, because YouTube makes you put the @ fun fact if you don't know that. Spotify, I'm also Jimmy's JamBox. Surprisingly, nobody had taken this. I don't really have any other social medias because I don't like social media. It's not my thing. So find me on Instagram. Message me if you want to be on the show. It's that easy. Go on YouTube, subscribe to it, please. I love knowing people are watching, and I hope y'all enjoy the episodes. And if you'd rather listen, Spotify's there.
Cool. And any final shout outs or anything else you want to keep in? I'm
sure I should have typed up something, because I thought I was originally going to shout out every guest that's ever been on the show ever. But that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's like 200.
I think you've spent your whole show is shouting.
I guess,
people.
Yeah. But I do want to take a moment and just, first of all, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know this is a tall order because I do this all the time, but you don't do this all the time. So
people, this is hard. You're awesome.
Oh, you did great. You did great. The whole time I was like, wow, this is so much easier to be the guest than I thought it was. But I want to take a moment and just shout out everybody who has been on the show. Thank you so much. It means the world to me to be able to share your stories. To everybody who watches, thank you. I don't care about numbers and stats and things, but I see them and I know that it's happening. So for everybody who watches it, thank you so much. For the people who have been there since day one, obviously you know who you are. Shout out to my mom, shout out to Max, shout out to Casey, shout out to Dan, shout out to James. I have my day one people, but everybody who comes and is a part of it in some way, whether you're a listener, whether you're a viewer, whether you just send nice words, it really makes a difference. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of this.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah.
You're awesome
for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this, and happy 500.
Yeah, here's to 500 more.
Here's to 500 more.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Camille.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
Bye.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. Keep jamming.